Hi everybody! Hi Noga! How are you?
I'm great, Gil. Thank you. Good to be here again.
Yes, so we're continuing our series of videos psychoanalyzing characters from Game of Thrones and A Saga of Ice and Fire. And today we want to kick off a mini-series, a 3-part mini-series about the 3 worst, maybe worst characters in the story. Joffrey, Ramsay and Littlefinger. Starting with Joffrey Baratheon / Lannister.
And command him to send Robb Stark's head. I'm going to serve it to Sansa at my wedding feast.
Your Grace.
Joffrey did not mean it.
Yes, I did.
So, as usual, we're going to start with Joffrey's traumas in order to understand how he became the teenager that he is in the show. We're not going to justify any of his behaviors, but no, I'm not.
Are you sure?
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, stay tuned.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But we are going to try to understand them and put them in context in order to explain, because psychopathy is actually a social problem. It's not just a personal problem or the problem of the victims of the psychopath.
Killing you would send your brother a message.
He is the son of his uncle. Inbreeding.
The nature versus nurture debate is a very common debate in psychology. It's been going on for the last century. But we also know that Cersei, I mean, she has some dark qualities. I mean, some of the qualities we'll be talking about, Cersei also possesses. So,
Joffrey's education, or lack of education, or miseducation. What do you have to say about that?
Well, Joffrey has been very well educated in the sense of how to be representable, you know, how to represent the Lannisters. He's very well spoken, very eloquent.
Right.
And
When he wants to.
When he wants to, right. He knows how to play that.
Please, have another cup.
You sure, Your Grace?
Yes, to celebrate my name day. Have as much as you like.
I will be honored, Your Grace.
Samarin helps Adonta celebrate my name day.
Right, but
But
there is a but. You remember that Joffrey is horrible.
yes, I do remember that Joffrey is horrible, and definitely something in his environment didn't set limits to his behavior,
To say the least.
to say the least. But there also have been several traumas, I mean, in the surrounding, things that have caused it. Well, the Lannisters are pretty narcissistic as a family.
What do you mean?
Their whole perception of themselves is being better than others, being superior. And so everyone in the family is a kind of a narcissistic extension of that perception. I mean, everyone is raised on behalf of the family.
And him being the fruit of the love and lust of 2 Lannisters that are twins, that's like the epitome of narcissism. He's born out of narcissism,
Right.
basically.
So Joffrey is raised to be king. He's actually raised to be, I mean, the Lannisters are not, I mean, the Baratheons are the rulers. Joffrey is technically Baratheon, but he's Lannister, right?
Politically.
Politically, yes. He's been raised to be part of the Lannister legacy, even though his name is also Baratheon. Everybody treats him as a Lannister. It's like a Lannister factory that everyone has to work for, you know. It's not only the Lannister family, but also the people who surround it and support it. And
Right. You have to produce more Lannisters in
Yes.
order for Tywin and the family, whatever, to promote the family name and family honor and blah, 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 blah. But Joffrey himself is narcissistic.
Joffrey himself is narcissistic in the pathological sense.
A pathological narcissist. What does that mean?
So he has a sense of self-grandiosity.
Right, like he won the war.
Exactly, yeah.
I broke Stannis on the Blackwater. Pity you weren't there to help, Uncle.
My apologies, Your Grace. I was rather busy.
Busy getting captured.
I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
But because he's covering up such a low self-image, he needs to compensate for it in such a high, and there's also a lack of empathy.
To say the least.
Remorsefulness, as we can see. With
Lack
him.
of remorsefulness.
Lack of remorsefulness, yes, exactly.
Because you did sound like a Joffrey apologist for a second.
No, that wasn't my intention.
Are you sure?
Well, maybe, you know.
Let's ask the duck. Okay, and of course he has been brought up with a golden spoon, whatever, with diamonds encrusted on it.
Right.
You are special, you are incredible, we are the Lannisters, everybody's an enemy.
You're a Lannister.
Like he has this image of his father, incredible father, who won the Battle of the Trident and deposed the Mad King and blah, 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 blah. But his father was very distant, wasn't very involved in his life, in education. I don't even remember them like talking.
I think only on his deathbed, Robert said that he'd like to talk to him, but that really said something about the relationship while he was alive. Yeah,
but I just can't.
I have to die, so maybe next time. Oh, oops, there won't be a next time, so maybe never.
I was never meant to be a father. Go on.
Joffrey really grew up with an absentee father, even though they lived in the same castle. He wasn't really there. He had more of a relationship with his father's image than his actual father.
And it's a hard act to follow, such a hero. He was during the war, he was the biggest, the tallest, the strongest. He was an incredible figure. And then you, I don't know.
And that's exactly the problem, because he never tried even to pass it on, some of it, to Joffrey.
I should have spent more time with you. Shown you how to be a man.
You want to be like your dad if your dad is a hero. Like I remember Michael Jordan in his Hall of Fame acceptance speech, he said,
Jeffrey, Marcus, Jasmine, I love you guys. You guys have a heavy burden. I wouldn't want to be you guys if I had to.
So what is it like for a son when you look at your dad and your dad is supposed to be something incredible? Add another layer to that, he never saw his father in his incredibleness. He saw him as a drunken, idiot, pathetic fool who sleeps with other women.
Oh.
Yeah, and for him, his father was an imposter, or it wasn't a real person to interact with, and that fit all the stories, and there was some kind of hole in there. There was a hole, without a W.
Right. Yeah. And you can contrast the relationship between Robert and Joffrey to Robert's friend Ned and his firstborn Robb. Ned instilled in Robb values and gave him tips. This is how you have to act in this way, and he gave him a lot of resources in order to perform well in the world, in the job that he's going to do inevitably because he's the heir of his father. But Robert didn't tell him anything about the Baratheons.
Right. Maybe he kind of felt also that the fact that Cersei also didn't push him to have a relationship with his father. At the same time, he also maybe saw some kind of relationship, a special relationship between her and Jaime that isn't very suitable to brother and sister. Maybe he saw a certain smile, or maybe she touched him in a certain way that he thought something is going on here. All these things served as what Jean Laplanche calls enigmatic messages.
Who is Jean Laplanche?
He's a French psychoanalyst, and he refers to the messages that are non-verbal, but are somehow felt. I mean, it's felt maybe in the smallest things, and in the certain glance or smile or the
And are you
cutting
aware
back.
of it, or it's like in your subconscious?
You receive it, like in a subliminal way, so it goes straight to your unconscious, but it affects your behavior. It affects your relationship with others. So many times when there are secrets in the family, I mean, the children are not aware of it. I mean, it's not conscious, but they get the enigmatic messages in a way that goes into their unconscious.
Right. That explains a few things. It does, actually. I want to go back to him growing up, the way he grew up in the world, with no one saying do this, no one saying be there.
Right, no one saying stop that, no one saying see here.
Basically just can't wait to be king.
Everywhere you look, I'm standing spotlight.
And with an attitude like that, I'm afraid you're shaping up to be a pretty pathetic king indeed.
He doesn't have any tools in order to be a good king. He can't be a good king. He doesn't know what a good king is. Like, he has instilled in him the ambition, the Lannister ambition that Cersei gave him, but without any structure. So it's just all over the place. And people pay the price. You have to remember that. He's not a good dude. Okay, so we take all that into account, and the result, What is the clinical term to a bad dude in this case?
In Joffrey's case, we can see what people call sociopathy or psychopathy. In the DSM, it's called the antisocial personality disorder.
So what is an antisocial disorder?
Antisocial personality disorder is a disorder characterized by impulsivity, lack of empathy, and sometimes also, oftentimes, criminal behavior of many sorts. In order to understand Joffrey, we can look
But not excuse.
Not excuse Joffrey, no. We can look at a term called the dark triad, which really refers to 3 personality traits that can be found in people like Joffrey, which is narcissism, we've already established that.
Right.
Machiavellianism.
Okay.
And psychopathy, which is also quite evident in his behavior.
Okay.
These 3 traits are considered to be very dangerous when put together. And,
to the world.
To the world, exactly, to society.
Okay, but he's not very Machiavellian.
Well, he is willing to manipulate and exploit others. He's just...
right, just not very good at it.
Exactly. He doesn't need to, basically, because people do as he says. So he doesn't need to manipulate them in order to do it. He just tells them to do it.
Okay.
But,
and then he dies.
And then he dies, exactly. We don't know,
So what is the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath?
Psycho, in layman's terms, refers to Hitchcock's movie, right?
Right.
In the movie, Norman Bates, the character, is...
A psycho.
He's a psycho, right? But what does it mean? He's a psychopath. I mean, we know because he murders other women, but he's also psychotic. He's psychotic in the sense that he lost contact with reality. He thinks that his mother is still alive or whatever. He has that... And since then, people basically refer to schizophrenics as psychos also, which is dangerous in the sense that it implies that they are dangerous.
Right.
But schizophrenics are not necessarily dangerous, and psychopaths are not necessarily psychotic. They can have contact with reality. Yeah.
Right, Joffrey is not psychotic.
Joffrey is not psychotic.
And he's dangerous.
Yes.
Also, I think part of his problem is like second generation problems. Like he's the heir to his dad. His dad built the company, and now the second generation have to take hold. But they grew up privileged. They had everything, so they didn't have to work for it and earn it. So that's a recipe for a lot of problems, also.
Joffrey, basically what he does is treat other people around him like objects. We try to look at the patterns that he does, and then ask something like, what is he doing, right? We see the patterns. Where did he learn it from? Meaning, who did that to him?
Okay. So he's a victim.
No, it's not what I'm saying. Well, we're all victims. I'm not saying that. In a way, he's a victim of the circumstances, but it doesn't justify his behavior.
Okay.
He's a victim of the Lannisters' narcissism, as we said. He's just an instrument to them. And so he's also an object, in a sense. He was never taught to look at himself as a subject.
Right, as a full person.
Exactly.
With emotions and feelings. Okay, go on.
So he treats people around him also like objects. And so it's like when kids or teenagers play with the soldiers or video games.
Right.
He doesn't have those kinds of games.
Right.
So he plays with the only objects he knows, and those objects are around him.
Finish him!
The prostitutes and the people and the, the
nice
simple
fight.
people.
Well struck. Well struck, dog.
Fatality.
It's all games for his entertainment. He doesn't realize that they're subjects, he doesn't have the empathy for it. So what he lacks really is what we call in psychology a theory of mind, Tom. Which means basically that I am able to estimate in a way, to guess or to be curious about another person's mind, to know that he is different than I am. He has his own thoughts, his own feelings. That are not necessarily the same as mine.
Right. And they act in a certain way which might be different from what I would do in similar situations.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I will be curious about that. I will know that I can't read their mind.
Right. People, that's like 50% of the conversations worldwide. It's like, look what this guy said to me. Can you explain it? I can't understand. Why did he do that? Why did she do that?
The same outfit.
The exact same outfit.
How many days was it between encounters?
3.
3 days. Well, maybe you caught her on the cusp of a new wash cycle.
Possibly, but then shouldn't the outfit only reappear again at the end of the cycle?
Maybe she moved it up in the rotation.
Why? It's our first date. She's already in reruns?
Very curious.
Indeed.
But he's not curious at all.
He's not curious at all. He doesn't have a theory of mind. He doesn't realize that other people have their own minds, but he's also not curious about his own mind.
Right.
Because no one ever resonated the fact that he has a mind of his own. You know, he was the future king.
Right.
That's what he was.
Right. It's like a bag of impulses.
Everyone is mine to torment. You do well to remember that, you little monster.
Kill them! Kill them all!
Well,
How long do I have to look?
as long as it pleases me.
So he's violent all the time just because he feels he wants to do something and he wants to kill Ned on a whim. Boom! I'll kill Ned.
Yeah. Bring me his head.
Doesn't care that his wife, his future wife, is there crying. That's her dad.
Yeah. In that sense, everyone is just like a pawn for his entertainment or like for his aggression. And,
right. There's no larger goal. He's just like a petulant child who likes to burn stuff.
Exactly. So we can see that Joffrey fits the title of Affluenza.
He got drunk, then jumped behind the wheel of his pickup truck and plowed down 4 people in a drunken haze. So why isn't Ethan Couch behind bars, going nearly 70 miles per hour in a 40? All of them were killed.
A psychologist and defense witness testified that the boy suffered from something called affluenza, a lifestyle where wealth brought privilege and there were no consequences for bad behavior.
The judge agreed and gave Couch 10 years probation plus time in alcohol rehab, no prison. He'll likely end up at this pricey rehab center in Newport Beach, California. His father has agreed to pay the $500,000 or so that it will cost.
So basically Affluenza is the not being able to tell right from wrong because of privileges, because of financial privileges. It's also evident that he's not the only one in his family that treats people like that. I mean, after Tyrion murders Shay,
it was self-defense.
Okay.
She attacked him with a knife. Come on.
Okay, out of self-defense, and he approaches Tywin.
I loved her. Who? Shay.
Put down that crossbow.
I murdered her with my own hands.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
She was a whore.
For Tyrion, she was a subject, but for the other Lannisters,
right.
So
the fish is rotten from the top with his family.
Exactly.
Right, but that actually you can say that the narcissistic side of the Lannisters is what makes them great, also, in some way, because they are so ambitious. In order, like they want to take over everything, but the fact that Tywin saw everyone as objects and other subjects made him overlook his kids and what they really like, and also his grandson.
Yeah, he didn't want to see exactly. He didn't want to see that his kids are having sex with each other because that's like dishonoring for the Lannister name.
I think for every parent that's like a failure. I don't know.
Well,
like
not for Targaryens, no. So it's a very cultural, relative thing. You can't judge.
Right. I'm sorry, Targaryens out there. I'm not meaning to step on your thing. Okay, so let's take all this into account, and let's say that you had the misfortune of having Joffrey Baratheon come through the door, lay on your couch.
Right.
Obviously, this guy is beyond repair. There's nothing you can do to help him out. That's it. Case closed.
Well, actually, with Joffrey, because there is work to do with him, like, first of all, he's young. I mean, sometimes antisocial personality disorder is not, diagnosed until a later age. Joffrey is in an age where it's still considered conduct disorder. Which means that
he's an asshole.
Well, yeah, no.
Maybe he's just an asshole.
Maybe he's just an asshole. But maybe with proper work and rehabilitation, he could really get out of it. I mean, he's not beyond repair.
How?
Well, we can see that Joffrey is desperate for approval, and he's desperate for the approval and of more authority figures, and
Right.
we can see that he's also sometimes afraid of them, like his grandfather and his uncle even though he belittles him. I mean,
Right.
Oh, you blind bloody fool! You can't insult me!
We've had vicious kings, and we've had idiot kings, but I don't know if we've ever been cursed with a vicious idiot.
You're talking to a king!
And now I've struck a king. Did my hand fall from my wrist?
And he was also afraid during the Battle of Blackwater.
Right.
He was like, should I run to my mommy or not? Like, he knew he was being a coward. Okay, so does that give you a sense of hope?
Well,
Why?
not just that, but also the fact that, if we know that he lacks theory of mind, we know that he lacks certain aspects of development that can be achieved through some kind of rehabilitation. And so there is work to be done with him. I mean, there are tools that we can use for his rehabilitation.
Okay, so what would you do?
Well, I would definitely put him like in juvenile delinquent's place. I mean, he shouldn't walk around in society. It's not like the Affluenza guy that, just got probation.
Right, so no king, of course.
No
and
king, of course.
Lock him up?
Lock him up, but also rehabilitate him, not just lock him up in a cell for life. In the process of teaching him theory of mind.
Theory of mind.
Yeah, which there are specific programs for that. I mean,
like he needs to understand it like in a logical way because he can't in an emotional way.
Sometimes it will come together. I mean, sometimes just the fact that people can think that what other people are feeling,
Right. Do this exercise, it changes their way of thinking and looking at the world?
It changes their way of, definitely. He definitely also needs strict boundaries like an institution can provide. And we can see that because he didn't have any with his immediate parents, right? His mother just gave him everything. His father was absentee, so...
Like his dad, a hero and the pathetic fool, he's a king and a bastard. But he's not just a king and a bastard. He's a king and an inbred bastard. That's like, you can't... איך אומרים? King, that's like the highest thing and position in the land. And an inbred bastard, that's like the lowest of the low that can be healthy.
So we can also see that he's maybe workable because of his relationship with Margaery. And the fact that because she could reach him in a way that others couldn't, and she did that a bit by joining in with him, like letting him know that she doesn't judge him, she approves of him.
He was surprised.
He was surprised. He was surprised. I mean, it's always surprising in a sense to, show people your, perversions and shit and have them say it's okay,
Not only it's okay, yeah, show me.
Show me, exactly. Being interested in him, as a person. Not yet in a positive way, but he can see that he responds to someone who is like a therapist in that sense.
So had he lived longer, maybe there was some hope for him. Maybe, but he's dead. So let's wrap it up. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Noga. It was a pleasure, as always. And if you want to support our channel and get a ton of extra videos, if you are into politics, history, stuff like that, you should definitely become a patron. We have extra videos about the proposed solutions for the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. We have in-depth analysis of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, all kinds of things in Israeli politics, in US-Israeli politics, all kinds of stuff. So if that's your thing, then be sure to check out the link below or just go to gotacademy.com and we'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Rama, Rama,